Hey guys, welcome to the Mom Show. I'm your host, Courtney Doyle, and this is a place I am giving you permission to not have it all together. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This past week, I had a conversation with Amy Loflin. And if you did not hear that conversation, I want you to pause this episode, go back, listen to that conversation, and then meet me back here. Because there's something that hit me about our conversation. And I think that more of us are experiencing this, and maybe we just don't have language for it. And it may not look the same as Amy's, but it's similar. And what she called it was anticipatory grief. If I could explain it, simply it would be living like something bad is always about to happen. Maybe it's expecting the worst case scenario even before it shows up. Or another term would be just waiting for the other shoe to drop. As I listened to her share her story about a moment that she had on the beach with her young son, she couldn't find him. She began to panic, but she didn't have the immediate thought of, where is he? Her immediate thought was, I knew it was going to be him. And that hit me because that's not just fear, that is expectation. And Amy admits that it sat with her, and she realized that she was living in a cycle where her past pain was starting to rewrite her present reality. And here's where I want to take this for us as moms, because if you have walked through something hard in your own life, or you've walked through something hard with a child, it is so easy to start fearing that that is going to happen again. Maybe it's addiction, anxiety, a rebellion. Maybe it's a health issue. Whatever it is, if you've lived through it once, there is this quiet fear that sits in the background saying, what if it happens again? What if it happens to one of the other kids? And if we're not careful, we don't just notice that fear. We start parenting from it. We start watching more closely. We start assuming more quickly. We start bracing ourselves, constantly feeling like, what if this happens? And we do this before we even realize what we're doing. We get to a point where we're no longer relating to our children based on who they are. We begin to relate to them based on what we're afraid of. And I want to be really honest with you about something. This isn't something that I understood. As we talked, I realized this is something I've lived. And this may look a little different, but here's an example. When I was in high school, I was in a really unhealthy relationship. What started out as controlling words led to physical abuse. And I really didn't have language for it at the time. It was just something I was experiencing and I really didn't understand, but it did plant a fear in me. And it also shaped the way I saw love. And even though I had a completely different example in my father was gentle and strong and kind and loving and protective. Somehow, though I had this positive example, this relationship, it began to teach me that this is what love looked like. It looked like control. It looked like tension that had a meaning to it, that if someone wasn't intense or reactive, then did they even care about me? So when I met Scott, I brought that into our relationship. I brought that expectation into our relationship. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. But I started to then realize I was picking fights. I would create the tension because when things were calm and he wasn't controlling and he wasn't reacting the way I had experienced before, well, then a part of me questioned, does he even care? Does he even love me? Isn't that so wild? How I had something healthy in front of me, but I didn't trust it, because it didn't match what I had experienced before. And that is exactly what anticipatory grief does. It takes something from your past and it tries to convince you that it's also in your future. It tells you, well, this is just how it goes. It says, this is what's coming. Prepare yourself. But here's the problem. When we live like that, we don't just protect ourselves. We start pushing people away. Amy said in our conversation, and it was so evident to her husband, that he was noticing that she was holding him at arm's length. Amy didn't even realize she was doing it because that's what fear does. It convinces you that you're being careful when really you're creating distance. And I see that so clearly in motherhood. When we are stuck in anticipatory grief cycle or an expectation cycle, we can unknowingly start to hold back emotionally or assume the worst, or maybe we start controlling more than we need to. We can even start disconnecting ourselves because we want to protect ourselves. And here's the truth that we have to face. Your past may explain your fear, but it does not define your relationships. There came a point in my relationship with Scott where I had to begin to recognize that I was trying to recreate something broken instead of receiving something healthy. It took time, it took counseling, it took awareness, it took me recognizing what I was doing and communicating that with him. And then it took me believing that that is not truth. And I needed to believe what truth is. And I think for moms, this is where the work is, because if you've walked through something hard, you have become more aware and you have begun to notice things. You do pick up on shifts and things that are happening, and that's not a bad thing. But there is a difference between awareness and projection. Awareness says, let me see, let me pay attention. Projection says, I know how this ends. And those are not the same thing. What one child did does not mean another child is going to do. So what do we do with this? First, well, we have to get honest about where we are and what we're carrying. We have to get honest about what we are expecting that hasn't even happened. What story are you telling yourself about your child that may not even belong to them? Second, we have to separate our past from our present. Your child is not your past experience, and they are not another child's story. They are not the worst case scenario. And third, we have to bring all of this to God, because if we don't, we are going to keep trying to manage this ourselves. And managing fear always leads to some sort of control, always. And control may feel like protection, and oftentimes it's not protection at all. It's creating pressure. It's creating distance, disconnection. And what our kids actually need is a mom who is not bracing for impact, but a mom who is present, not projecting, not assuming, and not living 10 steps ahead in fear, but is right there with them. And I want to say this clearly, because I know some of you need to hear it. Just because something happened before does not mean it's going to happen again. God is not limited by your past, and He is not repeating your story. He's writing something new. So if you are finding yourself stuck in a cycle that is anticipating, fearing, bracing, I want to invite you to do something different. I want you to pause, notice it, name it, and surrender it. Because you don't have to live like that. You don't have to parent from fear. You don't always have to assume the worst. You can be aware and still be at peace. You can be present without trying to control what may or may not happen. If this resonates with you, I want to encourage you to listen to Amy's story. Listen to how she found freedom and how God met her in that fear and helped her break free from living like that to living fully present. Her book, A Story Worth Living, explains that as well, how right now, the story you're living is worth living, and being bound by fear and what if is not where God wants us to live. It is just such a powerful conversation around grief and healing and freedom that comes when we stop living this anticipated pain. If you know a mom who maybe is quietly carrying this kind of fear, send her this episode, because she doesn't need more pressure. She needs truth. And I hope that she can find some freedom in Amy's story and in today's episode. Until next time. Thanks so much for listening to The Mom Show with Courtney Doyle. Remember to check the show notes for any links, books, or resources that are mentioned in each episode. We want to be sure this blesses other mothers. And in order to do this, if you're listening via podcast, be sure that you like and share. If you could write a review, that would be fantastic. It helps us get in front of other moms. If you're watching via YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. This way, you won't ever miss an episode. We want to make sure that we increase our reach to other mothers who need a little encouragement, a community, and a whole lot of Jesus. We're so glad you're here.